Welcome to Story Time. I'm glad you joined me today. Today we're in a special place out in the Northport Marina Park. And besides being here on this beautiful summer day, I have three special friends with me. Today I have my granddaughter Jocelyn, her dog Snoopy, and my special friend Sasha, this beautiful black lab. Right here, Sasha decided to join us for story time today since we're talking about dogs. That's her favorite subject. So we're going to start out with Madeline Finn and the Library Dog, written by Lisa Papp, one of my favorite dog stories. And the story goes like this. I do not like to read, not books, not magazines, not even the menu on the ice cream truck. And especially, I do not like to read out loud. Keep trying, Madeline Finn, my teacher says. But sometimes I can't figure out the words. And sometimes the sentences get stuck in my mouth like peanut butter. Sometimes people giggle when I make a mistake. And I never get a sticker, a star sticker, especially from my teacher, not even a smiley face. Instead, I get the heart that says, keep trying. I get a lot of keep trying stickers, but I want the star sticker. Stars are for good readers. Stars are for understanding words and for saying them out loud. But I know what else they're for. Stars are for making wishes. So I make a wish for my very own star. I guess wishes take a while because I don't get my star on Monday or Tuesday. Keep trying, my teacher says on Wednesday. On Thursday, I say the frog's name wrong. It's Samuel. I try to get away with saying Sam, but it doesn't work. Friday is no better. On Saturday, Mom takes me to the library. Hello, Madeline Finn, says Mrs. Dimple, the librarian. I don't like to read, I remind her, in case she forgot. Oh, I remember, she says. But today we have something special, something you might just enjoy. Madeline Finn, would you like to read to a dog today? Mrs. Dimple leads me over to a big white dog. This is Bonnie. Why don't you pick out a book to read to her? She is a great listener. Bonnie is beautiful, like a big snowy polar bear. Would you like to try? Mom asks. Yes, please, I say, but not very loud. At first I'm nervous. I get the letters mixed up, and the words don't sound too right. But then I look at Bonnie, and she looks right into my eyes, and she doesn't giggle. I feel better. I try again. Halfway through, I get stuck on another word. Bonnie doesn't mind. She puts her big paws in my lap and lets me pet her until I figure out the word. After that, Bonnie and I read together every Saturday. It's fun to read when you're not afraid of making mistakes. Bonnie teaches me that it's okay to go slow and to keep trying, just like the sticker says. I still don't have a star, but I can be patient, like Bonnie. Soon it's almost time to start reading in class again. But when I go to the library, Bonnie's not there. Neither is Mrs. Dimple. Would you like to wait for another dog? The other librarian asks. No, thank you, I say as politely as I can. Don't worry, Mom tells me later. Bonnie was just busy today. But what about school, I ask. You'll do fine, she says. Just pretend you're reading to Bonnie. On Monday morning, I'm very nervous. Madeline Finn, would you like to read next? The teacher asked. Yes, please, I say softly. The first sentence goes pretty well. Then I mess up on a word, and then another, and I hear someone giggle. But then I think about Bonnie. I take a deep breath, pretend she's right next to me. Next thing I know, I'm at the bottom of the page. I look at my teacher and she has a big smile on her face. I did it! I got a star. On Saturday, we go to the library again. Mrs. Dimple is back. I got my star, I tell her. I want to give it to Bonnie. Well done, Madeline Finn, she says. I think Bonnie might have a surprise for you too. Madeline Finn, would you like to read to Bonnie and her puppies? Yes, please. I say nice and loud. Look at how excited she is for the puppies. That's the story of Bonnie, the good listener, Madeline Finn and the library dog. Our next story is called A Library Book for Bear, and we're including bear stories today too. And he's kind of scratching his head like, why does a bear want a book? So Bear had never been to the library. He had seven very nice books at home. About kings and queens, and 3 about honeybees, and 1 book about pickles. Bear was quite sure he had all the books he would ever need. One morning, Bear heard a tap, 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 a tapping at his door. When he opened the door, there was Mouse, small and gray and bright-eyed. "We are off," exclaimed Mouse with a happy wag of his whiskers. Bear frowned. He had agreed to go with Mouse to the library, but now he was not quite sure. He thought he made a dreadful mistake. "Completely unnecessary," Bear announced. "I have all the books I need right here." "Oh, there are many delightful books at the library," Mouse assured him. "Huh," said Bear. He grumbled, but he had promised to go. So he buckled up his red roller skates, stepped outside, grabbing a basket for the books. Bear skated, and Mouse rode in the basket to the library, the wind rippling nicely through their fur. But when they got to the library, Bear didn't like how big it looked. "There are far too many books in there," he said. "Most excessive." "Oh no, it's quite exciting," Mouse said, leading Bear through the tall doors. In the library, there were more books than Bear had ever thought could be. He quickly found a tucked away corner, but even here there were lots and lots of books. "Ha! Terribly extravagant!" Bear's voice was a little loud. "I shall find you the perfect one," said Mouse quietly in his library voice. "One about pickles," commanded Bear. After all, he only had 1 book about pickles at home. But Mouse had already whisked away. Mouse came back with a thick green book. Bear opened it. "Rocket ships? Ridiculous!" Bear's voice was getting louder. "A good book about pickles is all I requested." "Remember, quiet in the library," murmured Mouse as he scurried off. He soon returned with a tall yellow book. "I'm not interested in canoes." Bear's voice was getting even louder. "Quiet voices in the library," Mouse reminded him. "My voice is always quiet," shouted Bear. "I will find my own book. I can assure you that pickles are quite interesting." Mouse didn't look so sure, but Bear quickly spotted a blue book with a pickle on the spine, and Mouse sprang up the shelf to get it for him. Inside were pictures of pickles. The pickles had little fairy wings. They were dancing on white petunias. "No dancing pickles!" roared Bear. "Shh!" said a voice. Bear peeked around the bookshelf. There sat a librarian with a cluster of youngsters gathered around her. The librarian smiled, but a mother squirrel squished an angry finger against her lips, and an old raccoon said sternly, "Quiet in the library." Bear turned back with a huffy sniff. "I know when I'm not wanted," he told Mouse. "I want to go home. Surely at least 1 book." Mouse began, but Bear cut him off. "I have all the books I need." He looked quite certain. "Then we are off," said Mouse, but his whiskers didn't wag this time. "Quiet voices in the library!" Bear bellowed. This time the librarian got up and looked around the bookshelf at Bear. Bear stood very still and quiet, as if he had been still and quiet all along. "Would you like to join the story time?" the librarian asked. Bear glanced at Mouse. "We'd love to have you," said the librarian. Bear and Mouse scooted around the shelf and found 2 empty chairs. The librarian began to read again. Bear lifted the lid to the treasure chest inside. The librarian paused. Mouse and Bear strained forward. Inside, she said, was a mound of pickle slices, and each shining slice was made of diamonds and gold. Everyone shouted, "Hooray for the very brave bear!" And then she said, "The end." Bear stared dreamily into space for a moment, and then he looked over at Mouse and announced, "As I said, pickles are the most interesting." "Indeed," said the mouse. Later, Mouse rode in the basket with 7 new books. There were about 2 wooden canoes, 2 were about rocket ships, 2 about teapots, and 1 called The Very Brave Bear and the Treasure of Pickle Island, which Bear read to Mouse that very same day. Next, we're going to read a Wild About books. And we have lots of animals here, right? We have all kinds of jungle animals. Wild About books. It started the summer of 2002 when the Springfield librarian, Molly McGrew, by mistake drove her bookmobile into the zoo. Molly opened the door and she let down the stairs, turned on the computer, and sat in her chair. At first, all the animals watched from a distance, but Molly could conquer the strongest resistance. There's Molly and all the animals watching. By reading aloud from the good Dr. Seuss, she quickly attracted a mink and a moose, a wombat, oryx, a lemur and lynx, 8 elephant calves, and a family of skinks. In a flash, every beast in the zoo was stampeding to learn all about this new something called reading. Forsaking their niches, their nests, and their nooks, they went wild, simply wild about wonderful books. Choosing thin books and fat books and Cat in the Hat books and new books and true books and heaps of how-to books. Giraffes wanted tall books and crickets craved small books. White geckos could only read stick-to-the-wall books. The pandas demanded more books than Chinese. Molly filled their request, always eager to please. She even found waterproof books for the otter, who never went swimming without Harry Potter. Raccoons read alone, and baboons read in bunches, and llamas read dramas while eating their lunches. Hyenas shared jokes with the red-bellied snakes, and they howled and they hissed till their funny bones ached. A tree kangaroo who adored Nancy Drew began solving mysteries right there at the zoo, such as, why were the bandicoots' books overdue? Gently, Molly taught lessons in treating books right, for the boa constrictor squeezed, cricked her too tight. Baby bunnies mucked up Goodnight Moon with their paws. Giant termites devoured the Wizard of Oz. And Bear's love of books was completely outrageous. They licked the pictures right off the pages. Tasmanian devils found books so exciting that soon they had given up fighting for writing. They made up adventures so thrilling and new that the others decided to be authors too. Pythons wrote with their tails, penguins wrote with their bills, and porcupines wrote with their very own quills. At the new insect zoo, bugs were scribbling haiku. The scorpion gave each a stinging review. As the cheetah's new novel began to take shape, he read chapters each night to the Barbary ape. And although the gazelle couldn't spell very well, like everyone else, she had stories to tell. Imagine the hippo's enormous surprise when her memoir was given to the Zulitzer Prize. And with so many new books, Molly knew what to do. She hired 12 beavers, a stork, and a gnu to build a branch library there at the zoo. Then the animals cried, "We can do it ourselves. We can check the books out. We can put them on shelves." And they did, and they do, up to this very day. 3 cheers for the Zoobery. Hip, hip, hooray. When you visit the zoo now, you surely won't mind if the animals seem just a bit hard to find. They're snug in their niches, their nests, and their nooks, going wild, simply wild, about wonderful books. That's the end. My last book has a very short title. Well, it's called A Dog Named Doug by Karma Wilson. And there is Doug. Once there was a dog named Doug. Doug liked to dig, but when Doug dug, oh boy, did Doug dig. Once he dug up a ground squirrel's nest. The feisty squirrel was not impressed. "I can dig better than you." Doug howled with laughter. "Let's see if that's true." So they started to race, but Doug dug faster. He proved that he was the digging master. With his nose down low, the dirt flew high. Clumps hit the cat as Doug sauntered by. Many miles of dirt Doug dug, leaving heaps and piles of mounds of mud, and ruts so deep and holes so wide that a giant tractor fell inside. And boy, did Doug dig. He dug to the east, he dug to the west, he dug his way to a treasure chest with about $1 million inside. Doug smiled wide and then tossed it aside. He dug his way past an old gold mine, took no notice of the danger sign. And oh boy, did Doug dig. He dug to the north, he dug to the south. There was grit in his eyes and sand in his mouth. But Doug kept scratching and scratching on till his head popped up on the White House lawn. He took the tour, he saw the sights, then decided he'd better dig home for the night. So Doug got busy digging, and oh boy, did Doug dig. All right, that's the end of the story I wanted to tell you about. Today's craft. Of course, we got to make dogs, right? It's a little dog. This is how mine is decorated. You can make yours go however, and they can walk. It's on both sides. And I will have your craft packets ready at the library. And since our library is open now full-time starting today, July 7th, you can stop in the library and pick up your craft packets anytime that the library is open. Thank you for listening today. Next week we're going to talk about fishing. We'll see you then. Have a good week.